So I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be talking about what we're going to be talking about. And I really just was going to preface this whole presentation by saying this is a little bit different than what we normally talk about. And I want you to know that I'm going to get a little bit technical, and I'm going to be walking this really fine line between being really technical and also keeping it super simple. I know that whenever we do the Quantum Alignment Show, we talk about human design for people who are at different levels of understanding, and I don't want to overwhelm those of you who are just getting introduced to human design, and we've had so many new people in human design lately. And for those of you who are more advanced in human design, be patient and know that I'm giving you seeds, and you all know where to go explore and ways to find deeper information about what we're going to talk about today. Our topic today is the coronavirus, the cross of the sleeping phoenix, and 2027. And again, for those of you who are new to human design, built into the mythology of human design is the understanding that the chart itself, as we know it, is in the process of changing. It is evolving. We're in literally a shift, and part of that shift is a shift in our energy field. And the nature of how our chart is changing is a whole nother quantum alignment show. I want to talk to you today in particular. I want to talk to you about global cycles and kind of a different point of view of what's up on the planet. And one of the things I really want you to understand is that when we look at astrology, or when we look at human design, which is of course got an astrological component, we're oftentimes looking at cycles within cycles within cycles. We have our own personal cycles. We have micro cycles with the transits, that the energies of the transits bring us. We have annual cycles. We have planetary cycles. And then we have, bigger cycles that influence the nature of our evolution. The way I teach human design is that everything that the planets are bringing us and the cycles that we're in are all about the storyline, or the plot outline, as I like to call it, of our evolution. And we are in the midst of a big change in what we call global cycles, in addition to lots of other stuff that's going on. A global cycle basically sets the stage for our evolutionary story. It's kind of the background theme that humanity has to master as part of our evolution. So we're coming out of a cycle, and each cycle, by the way, has its own incarnation cross. You all have your own incarnation crosses. When you look at your chart, you'll see on your chart your incarnation cross. Just want to throw this out here. You know that I'm a big stickler for vocabulary and the language that we use in human design. For many of you, I'm not a huge fan of the names of your crosses. Don't fall in love with the name of your cross. Don't try to understand what your cross means based on the name. The names, I'd find, don't really correlate well to what your incarnation cross is about. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying, if you hate the name of your cross, don't panic. It probably doesn't mean much about who you really are and what your purpose is. Each global cycle also has its own incarnation cross. We are at the end of a cycle that is rooted in the incarnation cross of planning, which started in 1615 and ends in 2027. The incarnation cross of planning has built into it 4 gates, 1 channel. It has the gate 16, the gate 9, the gate 40, and the gate 37. Now, people are going to start asking me, because I know people always ask me this, well, what if this is my incarnation cross? Remember that your personal story is a story within a story, okay? So you can have this same incarnation cross, and you can go, cool, I'm helping the planet as it goes through this version of this same theme. The bottom line is we're all helping the planet live this cross, and we are all being influenced by the energy of this cross, and it has certainly influenced humanity over the last 400 years, if I'm doing the math right. So when we look at the cross of planning, what we see is that over the last 400 years, we have been exploring themes in logic from the 16 and the 9, which of course we have been, right? We've been in this age of reason. We've been exploring science. We've been exploring how to interpret the patterns of life and what they mean, and science. We've had the scientific revolution, we've had the beginning of the quantum era and quantum physics, we've had all kinds of understandings in the patterns and the logic and the reasoning of the world. We've tried to use those patterns and apply them to the way in which we organize ourselves in communities. This is where this whole idea of systems comes from. So we have education systems, healthcare systems, economic systems. And those systems have given us ways to structure our communities, the agreements that we make, and the way in which we come together in partnership with each other through business, in partnership with each other in community, in partnership with each other through government. It's really been the big exploration. And if you think about, what we've done in the last 400 years, we've really evolved a lot around these particular themes. This particular cycle also has the potential, if we look at the low expression of, excuse me, the 4037, to give us a crisis in value, a crisis in sustainability. We always have a choice on how we're going to work with these energies. And I think, if anything, if you walk away with nothing else today, this is probably my most important point that I want you to walk away with. We always have a choice in how we work with energies. Everything in your chart gives you a choice. Everything in your life gives you a choice. And the dogma of no choice, and us buying into the dogma of no choice, especially at a time where it is necessary for us to enable and enact with so much conscious choice, is, I believe personally, a dangerous and irresponsible dogma. You have a choice. We have a choice collectively, and that choice is, how do we work with what we've got going on in the world to create more sustainably? And that's really sort of the end question, the end result of this cross of planning. We have come up to the end of this theme, and we're beginning to ask, okay, how do we create sustainably in a world that has potentially this crisis in resources and crisis in sustainability facing us? And don't panic. We're going to get to a good space with this. So this is sort of what we've been dealing with in the last 400 years. We're on the cusp of changing global cycles, and we're moving in 2027 into a new cycle, the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So this cycle runs from 2027 to 2438. 2400. I don't know. I won't be here or there at this point to know how we say that in the 2400s. The cross of the sleeping phoenix has some very, very powerful and interesting themes. So let's explore these. And I want to explore these with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective. And the reason why I want us to explore these with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective is because I find that some of the more traditional teachings around what's at foot on the planet are exceptionally discouraging, disheartening, and honestly, I think wrong. They don't resonate with my sacral at all, and maybe they don't resonate with yours either. And I'm really wanting to create a different opening in perspective. And I want to create that opening in perspective in two different ways. One, I want to walk you through the circuitry in the chart and what it means and how it plays together. And before I do that, I want to bring you back to my main point. And that main point is, we always have choice. The choices that you make are to a certain degree encoded in your DNA, encoded in your conditioning. And the more we study the science of epigenetics, the regulators of your DNA, we know that a lot of our choices are deeply influenced by our genes. But the part of the research that's really new that's coming out that I want us to also embrace and understand is that, yes, our DNA influences our choices. But when we consciously change our choices, we also change our DNA. It's a feedback loop. And you're not stuck with the genes that you have in the way that you're stuck with the genes that you have, but you're not stuck with the way in which they express them. You always have the possibility of shifting and changing them. And knowing what's at foot and having awareness gives you more power to choose, and to choose consciously and to choose differently, which I believe is actually the hallmark of this cross of the sleeping phoenix and this new global cycle we're entering into. So before I can break down the cross of the sleeping phoenix, I want to break down just a brief overview of the circuits in human design. Now, for all, just in the name of keeping it easy and not overwhelming and confusing people, there are three kinds of major circuits in human design, and there are sub-circuits within these three major circuits. But I want to explore just a gross overview of each of these circuits, and I'm keeping them with the traditional name. For those of you who are my more advanced students, you know that I have renamed these circuits. Individual circuitry is what we call mutative. It is a circuitry that is about bringing change to others. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this, the reason why I want to talk about the way in which we talk about this is because one of the things that we say in human design, which I think is just terrible, and I'll go on record saying this, and I don't slam things very often, but one of the things we say about individual circuitry is, well, individual circuitry doesn't care. And I think it has created this mythology around individuality that's sort of like, screw you, I'm going to go do my own thing, and I don't care how that impacts you or not. And I find that to be, first of all, an expression of individuality that I have never encountered in my clients. I have never encountered a person with a lot of individual circuitry or extreme amounts of individual circuitry in their chart who's like, I don't care. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care. Caring is a very specific kind of energy, and it has a very specific place in the chart. But please look at this circuitry. The individual circuit contains every single center in the chart, including the heart, including the will, which is the place where we serve something greater than ourselves individually. It's got the sacral, so it has sustainable energy for taking care of. It is human nature. And let me just add, it's also animal nature, because I'll get emails about this later. To care, to love. If you don't get loved, no matter what your design, if you're a small child and you don't get loved, you don't grow up healthy. Okay? Everyone loves. It's just the way in which they express it is going to be different. And an individual, one of their jobs is to be the full expression of the mutation or the transformation that they're here to bring. To a certain degree, the responsibility of individual circuitry is to be the full expression of themselves, because in doing so, they stretch the boundaries and the limitations of what's possible in the human story, because they're here to bring change. And in fact, I will tell you, one of the biggest pains of individual circuitry is that they oftentimes struggle with not feeling loved because they don't fit in, because they're here to be different, and it's because they do care. So let's stop saying that individual circuitry is like, I'm going to do my own thing, screw you. That's not it. Individual circuitry brings change. Everybody loves. Boom, basta fini, all right? Tribal circuitry actually does have caring as part of its theme. Okay, tribal circuitry is the energy of family, friends, community. And actually, this is what part of what we are moving out of, but not abandoning in the new global cycle. Okay, this is the place where we have cooking and rocking babies and romance and, buying diamond rings and romantic dinners and intimacy and seduction and sexuality. But we also have, let's go with this for a minute. I said the word sexuality. Yes, that's sex, but that's also all the other stuff associated with it, like having babies and making money or creating resources so that your babies can live to adulthood with good lives that have education and support and protection. This is about providing for the people you love. This is about sustaining the values that keep you coherent and aligned with each other in a tribal setting. This is the energy that causes us to create rules and laws that protect everybody and keep them safe. So that's a part of how an element of the circuitry. Individuality is actually designed to change tribal circuitry when it's appropriate. to evolve it, because tribal circuitry isn't going to evolve. It likes to keep things the same because this is the way we've always done it. And the reason why it doesn't like to change that much is because there's responsibility built into this circuit. And you don't want to make a change unless you know for sure it's the right thing to do, because you're constantly looking at how is this going to impact the people I love. So you don't embrace change quickly, because you want to make sure that if you do, this is change that's going to not only benefit yourself, but everyone else. There's an irony in tribal circuitry, and I love it so much because the ego lives in tribal circuitry. The will center, which is sometimes called the ego, is embedded in tribal circuitry, which means one of the things that we are here to learn to ultimately choose is to use the personal expression of who we are in service to the tribe, in service to others. We are here to serve. And many of us might think, oh, that's not, oh, I don't want to. I'm not saying martyr yourself. I'm not saying be codependent, but our lives get richer and better when we have meaning. And one of the ways in which we derive meaning is to care for one another. Go read Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, who was a projector, by the way. Collective circuitry is the third kind of circuitry, and this is the circuitry that is involved with ways of predicting the future and ways of understanding the past. And from those understandings and predictions, we create structures, big structures that sustain and take care of us. This is the template for the possibility of the human story. But as I said, most importantly, it's the way in which we understand the past, and it helps us predict the future so that we can make bigger collective decisions about where we're headed as a species. Okay. All right, now let's go back to integration circuit. Integration circuit is a sub-circuit of individuality. So there are 3 sub-circuits in individuality. Integration is one of those sub-circuits. When we look at the 3420, which is part of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, this is a channel that is found in integration circuitry. Ra used to teach that integration circuitry is the circuitry that makes us human. Just file that away because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. What we see in this channel, which is used in traditional human design, is called the channel of power and charisma, is that yes, it's an individual channel. It's in the individual circuitry, but it is rooted in the sacral. The sacral is the only motor that has with it the energy for sustainable power. And it's sustainable because the sacral has the job of building and nurturing. It's the energy of the sacral when it's defined. If you're fortunate enough to be a parent and have a defined sacral, that gives you the extra juice that helps you be able to, over the course of 18 plus, and frankly, it's way longer than 18, take care of a child and get it to adulthood and launch it out the door and get it to college and then get it to job interviews and then get it to launching into the world and then get it into your basement, get it out of your basement and all that other stuff that comes with parenting. It takes a lot of energy to raise a child. The sacral has this energy of sustainability. And it has a certain amount of caring and nurturing into it, built into it, even though this is technically integration circuit. This is responsive power. It's the sacral. It's not power in the way in which we know it right now. Right now, the model of power that we use is very much associated with force. You want something, you take it. Somebody has more than you do, you try to find a way to grab it and take it. Right? Power has a certain masculine quality to it in the way that we've done it in the last 400 years. But the nature of how power is changing, or the nature of power is changing. And we see this in the current transits right now. And we certainly see it in the transits for this year. And we certainly see this in this new global cycle. That power now becomes responsive. That the nature of how we use our power is in response. And because it's in response to what is needed. And it's regulated by the 20, the gate 20, which is the gate on the throat, as the gate of divine timing. This is where patience lives in the chart. The 3420 says, I'm going to take stock of what's necessary out here. I'm going to feel my way into it through my sacral. I'm going to respond to what's needed for this greater good of the whole, right? And I'm going to unify people around what's needed. There's unifying people around an idea in the 20. And we're going to gather ourselves around this idea. And when the timing is right, we are going to take action. We are going to unify ourselves and move forward with power that is responsive and take care of whatever needs to be handled for the greater good of the whole. That's what makes us human. Swooshing your cape and going, I don't care, I'm going to go do my own thing, that's actually not human. That's traumatized. Because when we act that way, we're acting usually from trauma because somewhere along the way, we learned that we're not enough, so we're trying to prove our value by overdoing our selfishness instead of doing the right thing for the greater good, serving our right place in the cosmic plan that is a place of service, of using our personal identity in service to the whole. The mastery of this channel is to trust that when you respond, when your response and power is required, that the opportunity to take the lead will show itself. That you learn to manage your energy so that it stays sustainable, so that when it is time to act, you will be ready. The unbalanced expression of this channel is to initiate ideas without responding, to leap in without waiting, to push and feel deeply frustrated and angry, and that nothing seems to be working out the way you thought. The unbalanced expression is, as I said, to initiate ideas without responding, to leap without waiting, to push and feel deeply frustrated and angry that nothing seems to be working the way you thought, and to let your fear of other people's judgments keep you playing small. Your role here, our job, is to learn to trust in the timing of the universe, to wait patiently, and to prepare to take action. And in the meantime, keep our energy occupied while we wait, and to allow ourselves to be powerful and to not play small. So we're going to be challenged in this new era to be as big as we can be. Our thoughts here, things to think about. This is an idea that unifies people around a common idea. This is divine timing, trusting in source, sustainable energy, and it helps us redefine power. And I'm going to call it feminine power. This isn't about women necessarily. It's a more responsive quality of energy, a more yin way of being in power. The next gate in this cross is the gate 59, the gate of sustainability. The mastery of this gate means we learn to trust in sufficiency. Now, let me define what I mean by sufficiency. It means you have everything you need. And you don't worry about not having enough. And you know that when you create abundance, there becomes with this energy a great fulfillment in sharing. If you have this channel or this gate defined in your chart, and for whatever reason you're not able to make money or take care of your loved ones, that is the worst thing that can happen to you when you have this gate. This is a gate of caring. It's a tribal gate, and it cares so deeply, and it is so powerful. It's an aura-busting gate. When you stand in the energy of this gate, it penetrates your aura if you don't have it, and you'll be forced to adopt the values of the people you're with for the sake of creating sustainable resources. It's that powerful. And it's not a I don't care kind of energy. It is, in fact, I care so much, I'm willing to put my life on the line to create resources and safety and security for those that I love. Okay? When this energy causes us to craft partnerships and relationships that sustain us and the foundation of our lives. In its unbalanced expression, you have to feel like you have to fight or struggle to survive. You feel the need to penetrate others and force rightness on them, to let fear of lack cause you to craft relationships and agreements that are unsustainable. This is actually a place where war lives in the chart, where we are tempted sometimes to seize and to fight for things. And sometimes if we're not waiting out our emotional wave, we go into war with people because of a perceived lack, and then we're in big problems. This is where we have big problems sometimes as human beings. This is knife fight, bar fight energy, right? But in its highest expression, it says, I trust that I have enough. I know how to create enough. I will work with others to create more, and we'll take what we have and make sure everybody has enough. That's the highest expression of that gate. Our challenge is to learn to make abundant choices that sustain us and at the same time others. Read that carefully, to sustain us and at the same time others, not me, us. To collaborate and initiate others into sustainable relationships from a place of sufficiency and learn to share what you have in a sustainable way. Last, but definitely not least, the gate 55, the other part of this cross, the gate of faith. This is the place where we create. And really what we're seeing here is the way in which we create is changing. Our humanness isn't changing. Our creative ability is expanding. The mastery of this gate says you have the ability, when you would cultivate the ability to hold the emotional frequency of energy of the vision you're creating. In other words, when you can lock onto your vision, stay emotionally aligned with that vision, be in faith with it, even if you don't see evidence of it yet, that it'll manifest. We are learning here with this energy to trust in sufficiency so deeply that we're able to create without limitation, that nothing will seem impossible if we know how to hold the energy, the frequency of emotional alignment with the vision of what we're creating. The unbalanced quality is indecisiveness, fear and lack, hoarding, my mother has this, keeping from others, fighting to take more than your share, not trusting source, and drawing on willpower to create. Our lesson here, and part of what we're going to be mastering in the next 400 plus years, is this. We're going to learn how to trust source. We are becoming much more manifested spiritual beings, meaning we're bringing a deeper essence of our spiritual creative selves into our physical plane. We are learning to know that we're fully supported, and we are learning to master the art of emotional alignment as our most creative power. Summary? Let's give you a summary, but first remember this. You have a choice. Say that with me. I have a choice. If you listen to how this cross of the sleeping phoenix gets interpreted, sometimes in traditional design, it's terrible. And I will tell you, I've never met a cross of the sleeping phoenix that acts the way that people say this cross is going to create in us. I don't believe that we're going to be living in compounds with guns and shooting each other over scarce resources. I don't feel it. I think it's possible if we don't make some changes that we'll go through a cycle like that, but we have the opportunity, we have a choice to change that experience. What's really changing is our source of our creative power. We have been creating and exploring the world rooted more deeply from a place of fear and lack. A lot of what we have built has been a result of competition and fear and lack. We went to the moon because of competition, okay? At least on the outward appearance of it. If you actually talk and go to NASA, you'll see that actually it was an incredibly creative, brave experience. And go to NASA if you've never gone to NASA. It's such a moving experience. But here's what's really, I believe, is happening. We're changing the way in which we create. We are learning to create with emotional frequencies of energy. We are learning to harness the power of our vibrational frequency to create what we want. And we've already been doing it quite deliberately for the last 100 years. We are redefining what is power and our way we use power. We're organizing people around the idea of sharing sustainable resources, and we're structuring ourselves in such a way, we're unifying ourselves around a common idea that says we can do this. We can respond to the needs of the world. We can respond to the needs of a changing world, and we can take care of ourselves and each other. We are learning to create with our faith, emotional energy, and via our ability to work with frequencies of energies, and we're doing what feels right. Tell me, for any of you, and I say this because I know the heart of the people that I attract, and I am so blessed to have you all with me every week. Not a single one of you thinks it feels right to leave people starving or uncared for or in need of support or nourishment. There's not a single one of you on this call or anyone who's listening to the recording who feels that way, because we know it's not right. It doesn't feel right to us because that's not human. That's not human. And I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to be nasty here, but I don't even think my dog would do that. You know, when my other dog who passed away last year got sick, the dog that I had was so upset. He sat with him for almost 2 weeks, kissing him constantly, tending to him constantly. When I've been sick, my dogs have been with me the whole time, utterly distraught that I'm not feeling well. What's not changing is the heart of who we are. The G center doesn't change. Our hearts are not changing. We are still defined by our identity is our ability is derived from our ability to love ourselves, to decide and to choose, to be, to tell our own stories, to trust in source, to embody our spirits in our physical body, to be supported, and to share. These are the words of the heart of humanity. I am love. I am powerful. I am who I am. I am forgiving. I am serving. I am vital. I am supported. I am compassionate. This isn't changing anybody. This isn't changing. This is who we are. The way we're going to express it will change. Our power will increase. Our creativity is expanding. Our ability to find the elegant solutions facing humanity is growing. Our ability to break old patterns and find new ways of being is coming. But the heart of humanity is not changing. This is what makes us human. All right, let's talk now about the coronavirus. Now, I'm going to zip through this kind of quickly. Let's talk about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is an effect or a symptom. It's not a cause. So I really want you to get that it's not an inevitable thing that's happening to us that's part of our evolution. This is a symptom or an effect of choices that we've been making collectively, not you guys personally, okay? It's an effect, not a cause. Ra teaches that epidemics begin when the sun is in the 44 in line 4, which would put this epidemic as starting around November 3rd to 4th in 2019, which timing-wise makes about sense. This is the design of the inception of the epidemic. And every event, including your birth, including your marriages, including the beginning of a country, including when you file your LLC papers, every event has a design just like you do. So this is the design of the beginning of the pandemic. And we see over the course of November 3 to 4 that everything stays the same except the moon. The moon transits first through the 60 and then through the 41. As I said, every event, including your birth, has an energy design that's a synthesis of the planetary themes transiting at the inception of the event. And these planetary themes set up the curriculum. I like to think of it as a curriculum that the event is teaching us, right? So we see first that the nodes, which, the nodes to me, I always like to describe them as the plot outline. This is sort of where we're starting and where we're headed. The nodes are in the 38, the gate 38 and the 39. The gate 39, which is the north node, I think that's right. And the north node is called the gate of recalibration. It's the energy that takes stock of what's going on around us and gives us the opportunity to go, oh, wait, time out, pause. I don't want to react this way. I want to get deliberate and conscious with my choices. I want to experience and explore with my energy field how I'd like to be feeling in this circumstance. So right now, at the beginning of this pandemic, many of us are afraid, and justifiably so, I believe. There's a lot of stuff going on that we need to be mindful of and be aware of. We have the power to change the outcome on this, but we've got to take stock of what's going on, and before we can move forward, we really have to get a sense of what do we want, what do we want to be creating. The south node, the south 39 is the south node, the north node is the 38. The north node, the 38, is called the gate of the visionary. And this is really the ability to hold on to a vision that has been cultivated through our own struggles, through our own adventures, that's shown us what's truly valuable. And I think, what we're really seeing is both of these energies are transformative or individual energies, which basically says that we're not going to be the same as we are now when this is done. We're going to be pretty transformed. And honestly, because I think this experience is forcing us to really explore what we consider to be truly valuable, this experience is going to really encourage us to reevaluate our vision for what we're creating. We are in a cycle that's going to force us to reevaluate what's really valuable and to begin to construct a vision that moves us forward. The sun is in the gate 44. The gate 44 is a fear gate, and it's the gate is the fear of the past, but it's also the energy that is about patterns, and it's about exploring the patterns that we have and asking ourselves, are these patterns bringing us more into alignment with our integrity, or are these patterns bringing us out of integrity? This virus is literally causing us to explore what I think is a crisis of integrity. And integrity in human design has a lot of different facets. It's not just moral integrity. It's also, are we living in alignment? Are we being true to who we are? Are we energetically in integrity? Are we tired? Are we depleted? Or are we expansive and rested? Are we being sustainable? Are we creating good agreements? Are we using our resources well? These are all aspects of integrity. And the earth is in the gate 24, which I like to call the gate of blessings. By the way, in the quantum human design, we call the gate 44 the gate of truth. Okay, it's the gate of truth. And it is kind of a place where we all have an internal BS detector, this gate 44. The gate 24 is called the gate of blessings. It's also sometimes a gate of rationalizing. So it's definitely, whatever's in the earth is what needs to be in place firmly, what we need to be receiving, what we need to be grounded in order for us to be able to be in our truth in the gate 44. So for us to live the truth of the 44, we have to be grounded in the 24, which means, as counterintuitive as it is, we need to be experiencing and exploring gratitude. It is very hard to be grateful for a pandemic. I definitely would say that for us to be able to be in our truth, we also have to be in our gratitude. We have to be looking at what is working, what is good, and start seeing the bigger picture of what's happening to us so that we don't get sucked into the moment, the details of what's wrong, what's not working. That's a challenge. I'm going to totally share with you that's totally a challenge. You know, it took me until the day before yesterday to get back to meditating on wellness after being sick for a week and a half, because, you know, for me, I was so sick that, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I was like, I don't care if spirit talks to me or not. I just want to get some sleep and stay warm, right? And, you know, sometimes our values get pared down to the bare minimum. But certainly I would say, in the context of what we're going through, is going to serve us well to be grateful for the experience. And that's not easy. That's definitely not easy. And again, I will refer you back to Viktor Frankl. You've got to find the bigger meaning and the bigger purpose in those places of gratitude within the chaos as a way of finding our truth and finding the truth and being able to move ourselves forward with a deeper sense of integrity and a greater sense of alignment with our value. The moon starts in the gate 60 and moves to the gate 41. The 60 is also a place where we have gratitude in the chart. The gate 60 is the gate of conservation. It says, before I throw the baby out with the bathwater, I need to look at what do I want to keep. It invites us to explore what is working. What are the blessings? What is the good stuff? We can't innovate because the electromagnetic to the 60 is the gate 3, which is the gate of innovation. We cannot innovate a situation we hate. You cannot change a situation you hate. So if we don't find what is working and focus our energy on that, we're not going to be able to transform ourselves through this experience. With the 60 moving to the 41, we see that when we take stock of what is working and what is good, in response to that, we begin to imagine and explore how we can grow what is working, how we can expand upon the goodness and not focus so much on the things that are painful or scary or disempowering. Mercury's in the 14. This is a very interesting one. The 14, the gate 14 is called the gate of creation. This is a place where money lives, and it is the only place in the chart where we work for money. This is the energy of working and the energy of money. So I'm not surprised that we've seen some of the financial disruption that we've seen. And I think we're going to continue to see that. And that's not meant as a scary thing. That's meant we're being given an opportunity to reevaluate the role of work in our lives. And is it keeping us in or out of integrity? We're going to be exploring the role of our resources and how we create resources. And are we doing it in a way that increases or decreases our integrity? And the way in which we work itself is probably going to change. And Venus is part of our values and what we define or what we truly value. And again, we see Venus is in the 34, the gate of power, this place where we are exploring a new relationship with power and how do we use power and what are our values around power. It's very easy when you feel disempowered in a situation like this to really have to struggle to find places of feeling empowered. But this experience is actually teaching us to find our own power, the own source of our own inner power, so that we can and then in turn be responsive to not only help ourselves, but to also be of assistance to others. We're also redefining how, the role that power has taken in perhaps creating some of what we're experiencing right now. And I'm not getting political. I'm just saying we are going to have to reckon with, has the way in which we've chosen to organize ourselves around leadership, has that worked for us? Has that sustained us or not? Mars is in the 57. Mars brings us lessons. And it's certainly a place where we have the potential for growth and expansion. And it's in the 57, which is another fear gate. The 57 is the fear of the future. And so one of the things that we really have to master with this pandemic is the fear of the future. We have to learn to be conscious creators and not fearful creators. Fear actually limits creativity and it inhibits our creative response. It actually also inhibits your immune system. So just remember that too. So really working on not letting fear run the show and not letting rampant fear, not being a part of spreading rampant fear. I can't tell you some of the weird stuff I've seen on Facebook that people have posted, and I think, honey, think about what you're posting before you post it. It might scare people. Jupiter and Saturn dance together. The outer planets always give us sort of the bigger picture, the bigger theme of what's going on. Saturn gives us a challenge that we have to master in order to receive the blessings of Jupiter. Saturn is in the gate 54, the gate of divine inspiration. Jupiter is in the gate 11, the gate of the conceptualist. Saturn says, get out of your head, stop trying to figure it out, and drop into your connection to source and let divine inspiration give you the next right idea. And once you get that next right idea, take the time to cultivate, to build the foundation, to set the stage for that idea to become manifest. And when you are ready and prepared and following your heart, then you will have the vision and the stories and the ideas and the expansiveness that will allow you to break free from the previous patterns of the past. This is the gate 11. The gate 54 is also the initiating gate in the business sequence, which also says hand in hand with going back to what's in Mercury. The way in which we do business and the economy is changing, and this is going to be a catalytic event in the way in which we do business. And I predict that what we'll see is that the measure of success and profit in business is about to change dramatically. And that because we are rewriting what we consider to be valuable, that our idea of profit and success in business is now going to be rooted in creating greater quality of life, greater quality of well-being for ourselves, for our employees, for everyone who's touched by our businesses. Uranus is the planet of awakening. The gate 27 is the gate of accountability. We're not going to wake up until we're accountable and we all own our own stuff. I can't tell you, I mean this in the most loving place. We're all part of creating this. We've all created this. None of us is a victim. I'm not saying that if you're sick that you're a victim, you're not a victim of the disease. I'm saying that collectively, we've all been holding an energy that has been part of creating the vibration for this experience, whether for the sake of our evolution or maybe because we're still twisted up in our trauma. We all have to explore our own role in cultivating any place where we've been out of alignment with integrity. And that might mean something as simple as, have you been resting enough? Have you been valuing yourself enough to let yourself rest? And if not, you know, now is a good time to get into alignment with that integrity. On a bigger picture, though, because this is a collective planet, you know, please know that there is a reckoning that's coming here. There is a reckoning that says we can't act with folly and ruthless disregard for the greater good of the whole and get away with it with this energy. It's not allowed. And we need to all be mindful of or be aware that there will be a bill to pay at the end of this experience if people are not being held accountable and responsible for what they're creating. Neptune in the gate 63. 63 is the gate of curiosity. It's also a place where we plug into super consciousness. And Neptune is really just inviting us, this is our spiritual energy, to really explore what else is possible, to really stay in a state of curiosity, and with Pluto in the gate 61, a state of wonder. That again, our creative ability is changing. Our creative nature is expanding, and our ability to create is really rooted in knowing how to use the power of our imagination and creativity, our state of wonder and awe, to stimulate an emotional frequency of faith and possibility, and then to trust and see what shows up. Once it shows up, we get to work. Once it manifests or we get the inclination and the understanding, we get to work. But we don't do the work we don't do the work first, and we certainly don't stress our brains trying to figure it out. Little side note here for Neptune. Neptune has the possibility of creating doubt and self-doubt and suspicion. I would love to encourage us all to stay in a place of self-trust, which means stay connected to your own inner wisdom and to not be so fast to distrust each other. And Pluto wants to know why. And maybe the why is something we table and figure out in hindsight, because sometimes it's not the right question, because sometimes the question why leads to either rationalizing or blaming. We'll know why. There's a bigger story unfolding here, and we might not know what it is for a while, and it's okay. Don't get lost in the why. Instead, get lost in the awe. Get lost in the wonder. Make sure that in this whole process, you stay engaged with your own sacred creativity. Chiron is a planet of healing, or the wounded healer. It brings us actually the potential for our healing. What we have to master with Chiron is where miracles live in the chart. Chiron says that when I'm emotionally aligned with what I want to create in the world, then I can have the experience that changes the nature of the story of humanity. I can have an experience that completely defies the odds, that breaks the pattern, that breaks the expectations. And that when I stay in a place of wonder and awe and creative power, when I stay in a state of faith, when I know what's really valuable and I hold a vision of aligning the world around what's truly precious in the world, and I have the faith that it can happen, then I will create experiences that defy the odds and are manifestations of what I have faith in. This is an energy that causes us to push beyond the limitations of our previous experiences and to create something completely new. Leaving us with this in conclusion, what do we need to do right now? There's 3 things. Ready? This is the second most important thing I want you to walk away with, other than you have a choice. Number 1, your most important job right now is to heal, clear, decondition, and align. Get anything that's keeping you out of integrity with yourself or each other or the world or your resources. Get it handled. We have been untwisting, untangling, deconditioning for at least 20 years now, quite consciously, for some of us longer. It's time to finish up that work and stop reacting and start being conscious, deliberate creators. Number 2, use your abundance to increase the abundance of others. We're not selfish cape swooshers that don't care. We are compassionate human beings. That is the nature of the design of being a human. We are designed once we get ourselves handled. This is not martyrdom. This is sharing, and that's different. And once we get ourselves to a good, strong place, that we turn around, reach our hands down, and bring others up with us. That doesn't mean that has to be your life purpose and your mission. That could be something as simple as making sure your neighbors have enough. If you've got extra growing in your garden, share it. Be compassionate and explore where else in the world you can give the goodness that you have to increase the goodness of others. And number three, oh, I didn't number that one. And this is the bigger challenge, but we're moving towards this. We've got to learn to co-create, collaborate, restructure, and unite, even if we have a different set of values. This is the challenge in front of us. That's probably the biggest one. We have to be able to sit across the table from people who have values that are very different than ours and learn how to harness our energy and our creative capacity in a common direction, even if we don't share values. Because we're never all going to share the same values. That would be boring. But we do have the ability to co-create quite phenomenally as human beings. And if all of us have at the heart of who we are a desire to be love, to be powerful, to live according to source's direction, to write a common story of sufficiency for all, to be compassionate and to share and to create resources for everyone. If we all have those core human pieces in place, we will find a way, a bridge to come together to create something better, to create something more abundant, more sustainable, more peaceful, more enduring, more human. I appreciate you letting me share my airy fairy dreamy ideas about the future of the world. And I absolutely know we can do this. And I really want to encourage you to embrace the idea that maybe it's not going to be so bad. That maybe all these apocalypse movies we've been watching have just been the shadow side of what's actually really going to happen. Don't use those as seeds of your creative thought. Think about something better, something bigger, something juicier, something more powerful, something more abundant, more sufficient, more sustainable, more peaceful. It's coming. We are so conditioned with masculine storytelling, and that masculine storytelling formula informs us that there's some kind of a formula we're supposed to follow. Do this, and then have this happen, and then boom, it'll never happen again. In reality, life is like a spiral, and every time we go around that spiral, we have new lessons, new ways of learning, new ways of expanding and exploring. You know, any of you who've been alive for longer than probably 10 years on this planet, you know that sometimes no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how many vitamins you take, no matter how many herbs take and ingest, and I'll tell you, here's an irony. I started preparing about 3 weeks ago my immune system, and I was taking all kinds of extra stuff that I don't normally take for my immune system. And I'm telling you, I never get sick. And once I started preparing my immune system, that's when I got sick. So I'm going to tell you, I'm a very healthy human being. I have been training for a bicycle race very reasonably, not a race, but a bike climb. I get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. I'm religious about sleeping. I meditate. I have a very positive mindset. I did everything right, and I still got sick. And sometimes stuff's going to happen because we're human beings and a human experience, and sometimes we don't know why things happen. Okay? Sometimes you don't know why it happens. So do the human part too. So especially if you need to do the parts of the human stuff that's going on in your life, so you don't freak out. Stay creative, maintain your foundation, stock yourselves and supply yourselves if you need to. Please wash your hands. Germs are real. And take good care of yourselves. You are precious once-in-a-lifetime cosmic events. And we're all going to get through this in whatever way we get through this. And this will be a powerful defining point in our evolution. So let's go into this like warriors of the light that we are. Take care of ourselves and then take care of each other and see what we create. All right? All right. You all be well. I will hopefully talk to you all again next week. All right. Be well, loves. Bye.